And it is my privilege to present to you today U.S. Congressman Dr. Danny Davis.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Bob, let me thank you for those kind words that you used to describe me. I appreciate them. But you know, I was thinking about my mother, who always told us that flattery, like perfume, is to be smelled and not swallowed. You see, she was of the opinion that fools would swallow flattery by the mouthful, but only drink truth and reality a little bit at a time. But Bob, it's so good to be here with you and to see the great work that you continue to do. Bob Wardlow has been involved in this business of trying to develop and create jobs, especially for low-income, disadvantaged people, longer than anybody that I know. For more than 30 years, we've been interacting from basements to block club meetings to church meetings to wherever there were people who needed the light of tomorrow and the opportunity to connect with opportunities. Bob and members of his family have been there. I have a tremendous amount of appreciation for the work that you've done and the work that other members of your family, who've also been publicly engaged and involved, have done. So thank you very much. Ms. Holman, other members of the dais, and those of you in the audience, I firmly believe that life is but a minute, just 60 seconds in it, forced upon us. We didn't seek it and we didn't choose it, but each one of us can determine how we use it. We generally suffer if we abuse it. Just a tiny minute, but eternity is in it. Being here is exciting to me. It's exciting as well as challenging. It's exciting because I want to congratulate Ms. Holman and Community Assisted Programs for the tremendous amount of progress that you're making in a tough field. I want to commend Tony Rakestraw because he has demonstrated that if you have the vision and the faith to give other people a chance, not only does it assist them, but there's also something in it for you. And in America, we always believe that there's gotta be something in it for me. And there is something in it for you. I want to commend Angela in the mayor's office, because when you talk about ex-offender reentry, many people, quite honestly, don't understand it. Many people think that it's just a minor kind of thing. But the United States of America is the most imprisoned nation on the face of the earth. There's no country in the world that have as many people in prison per capita as we do. And I'm talking about Russia, China, third world nation. There's no country in the world that has the rate of imprisonment that we have, which really means that the more than 2 million people right now in the United States of America who are locked up, incarcerated, not to mention those who get what's called supervision or who may be on parole. More than 650,000 come home every year from jail and prison. In our state, the state of Illinois, we have about 40,000 who come home. And of course, those individuals need to come to communities, and they do. right back to the communities where they came from, right back to the neighborhoods where they left, right back down the street from me, next door to my house, across the street in Miss Jones' basement, in Sister Smith's basement, her grandson. And so if the quality of life is going to be worth living, we have to find a way to help these individuals successfully reintegrate. City of Chicago has done an outstanding job of recognizing the problem. As a matter of fact, Mayor Daley has been on the committee at the U.S. Conference of Mayors where they try to figure out what do we do nationally. And every time I've gone to one of those conventions, every time I've spoken to the group, or I've always been proud to say, well, I want you to know that my city, the city of Chicago, recognizes the problem. As a matter of fact, the mayor issued an executive order several months ago saying that no longer would the city of Chicago use one's criminal record background as a reason that they could not apply for a job. That one can have a record and still apply to work for the city of Chicago, which represented a great change. We have lots of great programs, and we know, for example, that if a person comes out of the penitentiary and nothing happens to them, nobody helped them, 67% of them will have done what we call re-offend within a 3-year period. 67 out of 100. 53% of them will be back in jail or in the penitentiary or on their way if nothing happens with them. I don't know any family that does not have somebody in their family that's got a problem. Most of the folks who end up in the penitentiary go because of drug-related activity. 75% of all the people that the Chicago Police Department arrests test positive for drug use, men and women. Test positive for drug use. But you can have all the programs in the world. As a matter of fact, I had a bill that was scheduled to be passed last week in Congress, something called the Second Chance Act. It was on the agenda to be voted on, but opposition began to creep up in a serious way, and we decided that we better pull the bill and not vote on it last week. Because if you vote on something on what's called the suspension calendar, you got to get a 2/3 majority. And we were skeptical as to whether or not we had a 2/3 majority. So we decided to go back and renegotiate with the other side a little bit. And then if we can't be assured of a 2/3 majority, then we'll just bring it up on what is called regular order. And then you only need 50% plus 1 in order to pass it. You simply need a majority. We are going to do that, and we are going to pass my second chance bill in both the House and in the Senate. We will do it. Both senators from Illinois, for example, are supporting it. Barack Obama and Dick Durbin both support it. We've got good support in the Senate, just as we do in the House. But all the programs won't really matter if a person can't get a job and work. In the state of Illinois, there are all kind of barriers. And you wouldn't know that a person could get out of the penitentiary, learn how to cut hair, but couldn't become a barber because they couldn't get a license. It's against the law for a person with a felony conviction in the state of Illinois to work in any hospital, any nursing home, any healthcare institution, around any school, anywhere children are, unless you can get a waiver. We have whittled down those barriers a little bit in the last couple of years because people in the legislature are beginning to understand the problem also. For example, we got a law passed last year, and we got 2 new categories of individuals who can get their records expunged now. First-time drug offenders can get their record expunged. First-time individuals who are convicted of prostitution can get their record expunged. There is another law that they were debating this week dealing with prostitution, and they think they're going to be able to improve upon that. Because the theory is developing, if a person passes a bad check, Tony, they've got a felony conviction. Should this keep that person from working the rest of their life? I got a woman who's got a PhD degree, doctorate's degree, one of the brightest young women I've met in a long time. Got into an argument with the security guard at a football game at the university because he said something to her boyfriend, and she got a little aggressive. She was charged with assaulting a law enforcement official and convicted. She finished up her PhD. They let her continue to go to school. And she decided she wanted to teach school in the Chicago public school system. Guess what? They said, no. We can't hire nobody with no felony conviction. Not to be no school teacher. It's against the law. And so there are thousands of people all over America trying to work their way back into the employment market to get a job and can't do it. And when they don't, they do what is called recidivate, in and out, in and out, in and out for the rest of their lives. But thank God for community-assisted programs. Lord have mercy. It just warmed my heart. I mean, listening to Tony, it just kind of lit me up. Because here is a businessman who understands that there are all these programs out here, and they are. Empowerment zones, enterprise communities, tax incentives, tax credits, special funds for training certain kinds of people, special money for certain kind of people who may be on welfare. And if you can't piece it all together, all you got to do is go to the experts and say, hey, I'm interested in making use of some of these programs. Here's what my business is. Can you tell me what I can qualify for and show me how to do it? Well, I don't know if it gets any better than that. I mean, I just don't know if you can do any better. I'm on a crusade, to be very honest about it, relative to this population group, especially because so much of it and so many of them are African Americans and African American males, although black women are becoming the fastest growing part of the prison population. Young black women. You can't separate history from current events. You can't separate all of societal needs because they impact upon individual situations. And so when you deal with causation, you have to look at all of it. But when you can intervene, you don't have to be able to do all things to have impact. I often close meetings and ask people to repeat after me when I do, that I'm not all people, but I am one. I cannot do all things, but I can do some. No, I can't solve the world's problems related to ex-offender reentry. I can't prevent all of the crimes from being committed that people are subject to commit. I can't make prisons become what they ought to be, although they are changing. Because we've got a new experiment in 2 federal installations now, where the moment a person walks in the door, they start trying to figure out what got this person in prison. And if they discover that it was because the person can't read and write, then they put them in a class to learn how to read and write. If it's because the person has difficulty managing anger, you know, some people just can't, you know, if somebody brush up against them, oh, you bumped up against me. And I know you didn't, but I'm over. Some people just have these anger management problems. They just can't help it. I mean, somebody looked at them the wrong way. And they, and so they discover if there are people that way, they put them in anger management groups and try to teach them how to do it. If they got a drug problem, then they put them in drug treatment and try to help them overcome that. So I'm just excited to be here with all of you. Again, I commend community-assisted programs because I believe that in addition to what you do professionally, that you must have heard the song that I sing on Sunday mornings, Bob, when I go to church, that simply says, if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word of song, if I can steer somebody right who might be traveling wrong, then my living and my business will not be in vain. Thank you so much.